All right, so in my last post, I kind of wanted to get you guys prepared for um, how we take history and the many interpretations of what it was, uh, how many different understandings they are regarding history, and I brought it to where we can take a look at different angles of people's spirituality and how they incorporate them beliefs into their everyday lives. Um, and I brought it back to pretty much when the early Christian church had truly started gaining traction. Um, and of course, that was after Constantine had legalized it and made it the official religion. And but it came with a lot of conditions. Okay, what was considered popular belief at that time versus how a lot of that society back then were used to handling, you know, the the Greeks' way of theology and philosophy, and now they're being exposed to Christianity. Well, I was bringing you back to that point in time because that's not where the true starting point is, but that's where a lot of Christian religions have based their Christian understanding of what the word is and how they combined what books were allowed into the church. A lot of people like to read the King James version and all the modern dialects that people are used to, like the new King James version. Um, yet I kind of want to start scaling this back a little bit more. And so obviously, a lot of you know that the Old Testament is actually part of the Jewish Bible or the Torah. And these Orthodox Jews, they don't really accept that that he was the Messiah, that he fulfilled every single prophecy that was necessary in order for him to be considered the Messiah. So let's start scaling back from Christ, before Christ, the things that led up to Christ, and even Christ's own words. And then we'll even take it back a little bit further than that. And so we're gonna root this in chronology or in history. Um, so the main important message that I want you to understand is that so we have a lot of competing forces, a lot of different translations, and a lot of, well, this is what the word's meant to be. And then you had some very prideful people who were considered to be the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the scribes, the the people who said that they truly were the closest to God because they kept their word since the time of Noah and Abraham. So let's start scaling it back a little bit. Okay. One thing I want you to consider, if you're spiritual in that way and you believe in the Bible, quote unquote, because there's obviously more to the Bible than just the King James Bible. There's books that were purposely left out. Anyways, my point being is that it all basically has the same message of there was a creator. Okay. And some people believe in heaven, and they believe the story that um, Lucifer, the first begotten angel, um, was supposed to have been the creator's right hand man, uh, and he was supposed to be like the most beautiful creation, and he bore the light. That's why a lot of Luciferians consider themselves to be the light bearers. Um, but even going beyond that, before the war in heaven, okay, so y'all know what a synapses is, right? It's where your neurons are firing. It's where a neurotransmitter and a neuroreceptor, you got one that's firing information and you got one that's receiving it. So if you want to look at it this way, okay, if there was ever a covenant, or even let's picture it as this treasure chest of all the souls that the creator is going to use to incorporate these physical bodies in. That synapses, that thought, that decision while the creator was in heaven, when he decided to say, okay, well, this is going to be this creation of man, and this is how it's going to be. If even for a moment, even for a micro universal nanosecond, that conception, that thought, that synapses, we too were embedded in heaven, and our heavenly roots are grounded and based upon the creator's thought, his synapses, and he breathed it to life. So going way back before even the times of Noah, before Adam and Eve, before Lucifer and, the fallen angels, there was a decision made by the creator that we, as a spiritual being, as an energy, were a part of heaven. And heaven was our home. It was our conception. It was where we were thought of. And this precedes chronological time. So you have two realities, okay? You have chronological time, which was created to be a tool. However, in my opinion, it is one of the tools that Lucifer, the devil, Satan, the negative energy, the spirits, the principalities, they used chronological time to basically scare men and women into thinking that this tick, 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 tick of the seconds passing by, that there is an expiration date. And with that trick of the mind, of the carnal mind, when we say carnal, we talk about the flesh and the cerebral cortex and the whole entire neurons and the physical state, the brain is considered carnal. Okay? So the carnal mind grasps this chronology, this time, and they see it in a linear path. So there is a start, and that linear path has a finish. Even if one passes on, they still see before that moment of passing that time is linear. Okay? Now, universal time, or the Creator or the Heavenly Father, universal time is, it's true. You can look it up. It's not governed by that linear path. For example, 1,000 years within our system. Okay, this is our system. Okay, 1,000 years in that linear path. 1,000 years can go by, and because we're within that system, we're within that environment, that tick, 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 tick of the chronological time, that linear path, we see, we feel in our physical bodies that beginning and that end. However, in universal time, that same 1,000 years that we as people felt could be but a blinking of the eye of eternity. So while these 1,000 years are going by chronologically in universal time and the space-time continuum, there can be warpings, there can be uh, external variables that can fluctuate, manipulate, and even change the passage of time. So here we are in this system, yet in the grand scheme of things, that 1,000 years could actually only be but what we consider to be a blink of the eye or a nanosecond. So now that we have an understanding of the concepts of what time and space and reality and the thought process, the synapses of the Creator, foreseeing that this path, this linear path of time, when you have the ability to see infinitely in all directions, that 1,000 years is but a blink of the eye. So this is one of the things that you need to wrap your head around, okay? Um, our time, our chronological time, isn't governed by seconds passing on that clock. It is part of a greater system. And something that actually could have happened 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, or even when Christ walked this earth, it literally could have been that long ago. And since we are living within the system and we're on a linear timeline, it's hard for people to kind of fathom the reality of that time being able to pass so quickly. It also can stretch out for a long time too. So 1 second, one tick off the clock in a universal sense can be the same as 100,000 years. It could be that 1 second can last for forever. It can go on and on and on. So it goes both ways. Okay, let's bring this all back to where I'm trying to get you to understand. Okay. So people who have, okay, if you take the fact that Lucifer was one of the very first creations of the creator, this angel, okay, he is basically so far advanced beyond what any human mind could even fathom. He has the ability to see in millennia, okay, just like that. So one thing, if you if you are so prone to be jealous and you have these, seven deadly sins, or these seven carnal sins or original sins, and they are embedded within your vessel, your spirit, okay, the first one that crossed that threshold from being obedient to being rebellious is so far advanced that he could see thousands and thousands of years down the line. And if you cannot whoop, kick his butt, the big guy, the creator, and that's an impossible task, and you get cast down to a physical realm and you're unable to pay back the one person, the one being that imprisoned you, yet you're still amongst his children. Who are you going to go after? Logically speaking, you are going to attack the Father or the Creator through his children. Okay? And being able to see millennia down the road, he's going to take the Word. Okay, so in the beginning was the Word. You can look this up. It's in First John chapter 1, also part of Genesis. In the beginning was the Word. Okay, so the Word was spoken into life. Life was given by the Word. The Word was there first. And you are Lucifer or the devil or Satan or the negative energy, however you put your spin on it. And you have the ability, you're like the second creation that has the ability to process, to think, to formulate whether or not to be obedient or be rebellious. And you're coming so close to God. And you have the mind of the firstborn angel. And you have the ability to see for millennia that fast. And you can't whoop the main guy's butt. You go after his children, but you understand the Word. Okay? The Word, words have powers. Words can bring life. Words can destroy. Words can comfort. They can bring terror. They can create wars. They can end wars. They can teach. Yet they can also manipulate. And understanding that spoken word was the very first creation, and you have the Creator's children, you have the Word, and then you have men who are fallible and that are easily influenced because they cannot see for millennia. You're going to start using that word, okay? You're going to throw these little darts of half truths or a sway of what the real true word should have been, and convolute it and switch it and change it and give it a separate meaning, although it still sounds like it's pretty darn close to being the same. With these little darts of mistruth, these lies, these deception tactics, you don't instantaneously change every word because he does not have the power to do that. He has the power to influence men, to change the word and do it in a way that is so elegant, so creative, so far advanced that most people don't even pick it up. So this is your way of getting back at the Father, the Creator, the one that you cannot beat up, the one that created you, that you rebelled against. So you go after his children. And this is part of what's happened with time. Okay? If you understood universal time and chronological time, and you know that this chronological time can manipulate a person's mind into seeing a beginning and an end when in all reality it is infinite. Then you take that time that you have left, because he is the one that is truly on a ticker. And he understands that his time is on that linear path from a beginning and to an end. So he wants to get everybody on that same path that he's on. And one of the ways of doing it is by perverting the word and using men to do it, enticing men with power, just like he tried to entice Yeshua into saying, I'll give you everything you see. I can give you all the rich. I can give you everything. You just bow down to me. Okay, if you want to look at it like that. He does this to weaker men because he knows that he cannot do that to somebody that is greater than himself. So be wary of the power of the word that you ingest. Don't allow yourself to fall in those. This will get people upset, so I gotta word it properly. Those institutions that tell you that through their way of understanding of how to get to heaven is by going into their doors so that you can climb the ladder to get up to heaven. Don't fall for that, okay? Yeshua, okay, for an example, when he went to the temple and he seen that they were turning away people because they were poor, they didn't have nice clothing, and they weren't able to pay a tithing or a tax like the tax collectors, and they were selling these doves and these these animals to be slaughtered for the altar, and they were making money. It became an institution, and he went in, and Yeshua said that they were a den of vipers, and how dare they use the word to make profit or gain. For what gains you if you were to receive the world and all its riches, yet your spirit, you lose it. You don't see a U-Haul behind any hearse, okay? They can't drag their mansions. They can't drag their bank accounts. They can't take their favorite cars or their, they can't. And so why profit off of something that is giving freely and was meant to be the bread of life? And he told them people, them Pharisees, these Sadducees, these scribes, these holy men, that they were in more mortal danger of damnation and losing their soul, of losing their ability to enter into heaven, because they know the word. And the people that they would not allow into the temple to worship, he said that they have, even without making it into the temple, Okay. They have a better chance of making it to heaven than the ones who have the knowledge, the ones that present the word and this manna of life. Okay. You are in greater jeopardy of losing your eternal salvation because you know the law. And that's what he said. Because you know the law, you will be in mortal jeopardy. And so the point that I've been making and what I want you to understand is we're going to challenge what the mainstream belief is regarding religion. And we're going to challenge, we're going to stress test, we're going to fact check, we're going to go down every single avenue that will help bring the manna, because the word, okay, like I told you, it has the ability to bring life. And this is what we're doing is we're going to bring life. We're going to bring that vibrational energy, and we're going to share this because we are living in some times, and this is going to be one of the other things that we're going to look at, of all these signs and wonders and prophecies and predictions and what has happened, what's to come, what is not being a distraction with watching news or social media or even religion. Okay. Religion is a huge distraction. It's like, okay, so in Revelations, there's these churches, these 7 churches, and there's 7 tribes, and you know, these 7 candlesticks or these lamps is what they call it. Imagine seeing the thing that they go light the Olympic torch, and it makes that big flame, that caldera or cauldron. Okay, so each church has a certain amount of spirit, that flame within the church. This is the same with religion. The amount of flame that comes from these institutions, these churches, is the amount of spirit that is within the church, that is within the people. And so part of the message is that, yeah, they have a flame, but is it an inferno? Is their spirit so strong within that church that you could see it forever away? Or is it a little tiny flame? You're in there and you're the spirit of the church. That flame may not be so bright. This is the message is with the churches and religion. There are some good points to religion and the church. However, read Revelations, and when it talks about the churches, yeah, you've done some good things, but you've lacked in this area. And then also with the word of Yeshua. And I'm going to show you why we need to refer to them in the original Hebrew dialect, because words have power. And if you look at some of the animations that I made regarding the word in the previous posts, the AI stuff that I created talks about why the name God It's a no-no. That comes from pagan roots. The word Jesus is comes from a Greek terminology is iosis. I don't know how to say it right, but in Latin it's Jesus. Jesus. Okay. Um, Stick with Yeshua. If you're gonna refer to the Savior or Christ, you want to call him Yeshua or Emmanuel or El Shaddai. El Shaddai is just the great teacher. And Emmanuel, that's written in the old ancient dialect and in the Hebrew terminology, and Yeshua or Yahoshua. Um, these are part of the original linguistics where vibrational patterns, these power of the words were meant to be kept in that resonance. Okay. Think about it. The Greeks changed the name from Yeshua to what ultimately became Jesus. There's little parts to that before it gets to Jesus, but the letter J has only been in the alphabet a little over 400 years. Be lucky if it's 500 years old, the letter J. Okay. And when you say it in the Latin, you're saying Jesus, Jesus, hail Zeus. Think about it. When you say Gad or God, look up the pagan deity who was named Gad or God. Okay, it's Gad, but it's been spelled as Gawd. And it's a pagan deity. And when you say God, you're actually paying homage to one of their pagan deities. And it's the pagan of fortune, the deity of luck, of this is what I want, so therefore I'm going to pray to God for it. Do your homework. Don't take my word for it. Um, so we're going to tie all this together, the word, the chronology, the universal time, what has happened way back when to what's going to happen in the future, what's happening right now, and take this journey with me. And you know, we will find that truth, that manna, that bread of life, and you're going to use your own discernment. You're not going to take my word, because I'm a person and I could be one that has all these stains in my background, in my history. I am far from an angel. Yet the words that I speak are not my own. And so, therefore, any person who takes the word and perverts it, they will have double E. They are going to be cast into the extra hot fire. They will be stripped of their flesh and they will burn forever. And so will, cursing and those generational curses that happen thereafter. And I'm not trying to do that. So don't take my word for it. Everything that I bring to you has already been written. I'm just enlightening you, my family and friends and loved ones, into looking at the reality of what's transpired within that chronological time, from where people see, oh, in the beginning, and then Adam and Eve, and then Abraham, and Solomon, and David. And we're going to go all the way down that linear path. And we're going to come to an understanding. We're going to figure a lot of this stuff out. And, you know, I appreciate you guys who listen in. This is some very important stuff. And I'm going to even share some other things that you will be surprised to understand and listen and learn and even contemplate coming from a person like me. So blessings to you until next time.